Hi folks, Don Dillard with Dillard Philosophy here. In this collection of videos, I would like to talk about a somewhat morbid subject, burial. I know that this isn't a comfortable subject for most people. After all, it's not very pleasant to contemplate your mortality on a regular basis. But this is a philosophy channel. Whatever your beliefs are about the afterlife, there's still questions to be raised about what to do with your body in this life after you've passed on. Part of the problem here consists in the fact that more people exist today than have ever existed in the history of mankind. Now consider this fact together with the further fact that someday we will all die. It's inevitable, it will happen. Furthermore, there's only a finite amount of space on the planet, and we're already overcrowded as it is. And when you take all these facts together, it seems like there are some important ethical and philosophical questions we probably should be asking ourselves about the manner in which we dispose of our remains after we've passed on. So without further ado, here's the videos.
This traditional casket in the ground method most of us are used to is what journalist Mark Harris calls a modern burial.
And that is the chemical embalming of the remains, the burial of the body or the placement of the body into a metal casket, and then the placing of that casketed embalmed body at the bottom of the grave that we call the burial vault. So that's pretty much the American way of death. The average cost of modern burial runs on average from $10,000 to $12,000. Although you can talk to families who'll tell you they paid a lot more than that. Every year we divert enough concrete to the production of those burial vaults to lay a 2-lane highway halfway across the country. And every year we divert enough metal for those metal caskets to completely rebuild the Golden Gate Bridge. The average 10-acre cemetery contains enough coffin wood to construct more than 40 homes, and contains enough toxic formalin, which is the main compound of embalming fluids, to fill a backyard swimming pool. Years ago, for the first time in this country's history, more Americans were cremated than buried, and then pretty soon we're going to hit 50% of Americans being cremated. Cremation does use some resources. So you're heating a body for 2 hours up to 1800 degrees. You're using natural gas, electricity. You're releasing pollutants into the atmosphere, most significantly mercury.
No matter what the method though, it's clear that we have to reform the way that we bury the dead. In less than a quarter century, 76 million people in America alone will get to the average life expectancy of 78 years. If all those people were buried in traditional graves, we'd need a cemetery the size of Las Vegas to accommodate their bodies. The point is, we're all gonna die. The question is, what are we going to do with all the bodies?
The new rules will require any healthcare facility, be it a hospital or abortion clinic, to bury or cremate the fetal remains. The mother will not have to pay for the burial or cremation. Ceremonial services will also not be included. The state says providers will need to work directly with other entities like crematoriums or medical waste companies or each other in order to comply with the new rules. Now, the baby's mother will not have to pay for any of this. All of the costs will fall onto the hospital or abortion clinic. The state says the anticipated annual cost for each facility that chooses cremation or burial will only be $450 a year. The remains do have to be buried in a burial park that is used or intended to be used for the permanent interment of pathological waste and includes a burial park for earth interments. The new rule will not impact women who have a miscarriage at home.
Portion of cremated remains is carefully placed inside a permanently sealed flight module. Each module is inscribed with a personal message. On launch day, families gather at the liftoff site to share the experience.
That was the company Celestis. It offers different packages for space flights, from a trip into orbit that returns to Earth to a launch into deep space. The prices range from $995 to $12,500. But it seems what's making news lately is the cheaper option, startup company Elysium Space. Elysium offers just one option for $1,990. The process is similar to Celestis in that cremated remains are placed into a small capsule that is then launched into space. Our memorial spacecraft will respectfully and peacefully orbit the Earth from a few months to several years. Eventually, in a last poetic moment, the spacecraft will harmlessly re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, blazing as a shooting star. Oh yeah, spaceflight is merely a fraction of the cost compared to a traditional funeral, which the National Funeral Directors Association estimated was more than $6,500 in 2009.
In tiny Hong Kong, every inch counts. There are not enough homes in the territory, so 7 million people have to squish together. It's just as tough to find space for the dead. For the last 4 years, Ju Mei-king has been looking for a place to bury her father's ashes. She's had to hire Alex Chen to help. He works as a property agent for the dead.
Private cemeteries will charge a minimum of $7,000. That's 10 times more than the cost of government cemeteries. Per square meter, the price is more expensive than for the living.
While they wait for a space to open up, families leave their relatives' ashes in funeral homes. We found cremated remains in the back room. Boxes of urns stacked on top of each other. And little bags of ashes piled inside cupboards.
What do you think his last words were?
Probably whoops or ouch. The concept of last words is as silly as the rest of this.
Wait, are you trying to ruin funerals? This is how people grieve.
Yeah, which is why it's so tragic that the American funeral industry needlessly exploits that grief for profit. Case in point, the expensive and useless process of embalming, which was popularized during the Civil War. After Lincoln was assassinated, the government paraded his corpse around the country in order to showcase the hero's sacrifice. But that's not what the people took away from it.
Oh my gosh, Abe has been dead for weeks and he still looks fly as hell.
Honestly, anyone who is anyone gets pumped full of chemicals.
But for those of us whose bodies aren't going on tour, embalming is totally pointless. Why would you need to be preserved right before they bury you in the dirt? Isn't the whole point to decompose?
Excuse me, embalming gives dignity to the deceased.
Yes, it's respectful.
Respectful? What do you think embalming is?
It's like a spa day for a dead body.
Exactly, don't correct her.
Embalming is the least respectful thing you can do to a body. First, the jaw is wired shut, the eyes are sealed with glue, then the internal organs are punctured and drained through a hole in the abdomen. After that, they pump the arteries full of formaldehyde and stuff the internal cavities full of cotton.
Okay, stop! Enough!
Because you didn't confront your mortality and decide how you'd want to be buried while you were still alive, Murph will probably bankrupt himself getting you a regular funeral.
Oh, man.
In fact, because you didn't plan ahead, everything about your death will suck. And I'll explain why right after this.
I know I'm literally dying, but you are the worst part of my day.
Well, that's all I have for now. Thanks for your kind attention, and I look forward to seeing what you have to say about this topic. Take care.